Okay, this is a window into growing up around my dad. My grandfather gave my dad some money to go buy my sister a car. Now, one would think that when you were given money like that, it'd be a search for quality. Because hey, who wants to go rescue a kid on the side of the road somewhere?
Right.
So my dad, instead of buying a Toyota or Nissan or something like that has a track record for quality and not breaking down, he bought like a 1976 MGB, the worst car ever. I mean, that car then was less than 10 years old, and it would stop all the time, and it was but that's the car my dad thought was cool. So for him, not
Wasn't that the story where Tiffany, you got out of the car and walked to school, and Tiffany was like, "Hey," and the car wouldn't start?
So
like,
I was a freshman in high school, and we get to this crossroad. Now they've got a stop sign there. I don't know if they used to have that, but anyway, and it would just die all the time. It wouldn't start.
Right.
So it had an electrical problem. So we go up, and it was a straight shift. So if you weren't careful, you could kill the engine.
Right.
And so we get up to this thing. I remember I had on a University of Tennessee orange hoodie and matching sweatpants, and like a military jacket. One of my dad's military jacket. We were on our way to school, and I was a freshman. She was a senior. So we get to the stop sign, and the car just dies. And I see these school buses. I'm sure headed for West, which is and I get out of the car and just start walking. She goes, "What are you doing? Help me push the car off the road." So we did that all the time. And I remember my dad used to get so mad. He would show up and he'd pull some cable out of the car and go, "This is your problem." He didn't know what he was doing. The whole problem with the car was it was a piece of junk.
Right.
And my sister finally goes and trades it in for an 87 Nissan Sentra. And we had parked at the top of the hill. We lived on this hill, and we were driving it to the dealership to pick up the car. She was. And we go get in the car, and we had to push it off this hill, pop the clutch to get it to start. So we finally, it didn't die until we got to the car dealership, pulled it in the parking lot, and just turned that was it, So she goes and signs the paperwork and tosses the keys, whatever. So they go out there and try and move it, and it wouldn't start. So these three dudes are pushing this MGB to the back. These three salesmen are pushing it to the back of the lot.
Oh, goodness.
So, and then my dad, and then how this carries over to me is that, in 1988, I'd saved up, I worked at Little Caesars. I'd saved up a few $100. I don't know, $700-800, something like that. And my dad goes, "I think I found a car for you." I was like, "Oh, cool." Again, Toyota, something reasonable, reliable, all that crap. We show up, and it's a 1969 Mustang. The biggest, I remember looking, I was like, all right, I guess it was in this field, less than 20 years old, but just destroyed, covered in rust. Just awful. I didn't know that. You couldn't really see it. But my dad's like, the hardcore negotiating skills. I remember he's sitting there and he goes, "What's the lowest price you'll take?" And the guy goes, $13.50. He goes, "All right, I think I can do that." So I borrowed a little bit. I think my dad, he paid me. I borrowed $600 or something, so we get this thing. And it was horrible. This thing was just a piece of crap. I was driving down the road one day right after I got it, and I was like, "God, dog, where are these fumes coming from? Ugh." And then what happened was the trunk had rusted out. So all these fumes are coming back into the trunk. And I had to get a rag and stuff it down in there. These towels and stuff.
Oh, God.
And then
that's hilarious.
Yeah, and that happened. And then the other funny story was that of course I really got into Mustangs. I'd read magazines and stuff. This stupid notion that I was going to somehow restore the car one day, and which I never did. But that was the only year that back up just real quick, 30 seconds. Ford designed the Mustang to be an economical car, which meant they had to cut a lot of corners.
Right.
And that was back way before quality control like we know it today, or even in the 80s. It didn't exist. They basically designed these cars so you had to get rid of it in 3 years or whatever.
Right.
So that was the only year where they took your windows right on these tracks. And it's like it scissors up and down. And that was the only year that, of course, 1969, the year that was my car, where they basically used glue and fabric to put in there, hold the windows in. So one day I was putting the window down and it just fell. It was like, current. I was like, what? So I had to constantly take the door panel off to put it up there. And I remember one time, it was the passenger side door that was bad. They were both bad, but that one was bad. And I had it shut. And I went to pick this person up, and and they went to get on the passenger. I go, no.
Don't touch the window.
You got to crawl across. So they had to crawl across on the passenger side.
Oh, God.
Yeah, that car, it was something. I was going down the road one time, and I was going on 640, actually, towards Fountain City. and this U clamp came off for the exhaust went into the muffler and just instantaneously came loose, and it was all of a sudden just like wow. I was like, whoa, what is that? So I pulled over and had to. I was constantly in the AutoZone parking lot buying something underneath that car. It was just a mess. The floorboards are rusted out. It was just oh god.